11 again, Revelation 11, 12, 11. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their life unto death. It tells you right here that not all of these peoples was going to turn to the law of democracy. They did love not their life, but rather than to curse God, just like Job refused to curse God, these two was not going to take on a law of democracy. And it was the part when they went over there to democratize that nation and cast down the daily sacrifice and dominate them people, bound them and torture them and shoot them in the back of the head to make them people, force them people to take on a law called democracy. And it tells you here that they never changed their integrity towards God. Well, I would like to get into Revelation chapter 13, but time will not prevent me to do so. And it is a replica of this. I wait for it to be on another recording so I could add it to Revelation chapter 17. However, I will have to use the same chart here. The Revelation 15, 16, 17. So to show you the outcome of that. In other words, God talks about one event taking place, and he talks about another event taking place. But it all comes back to saying, you'll see throughout the history of Bible prophecy that he spoke concerning the United States of America. Now, I want to, since I've got a little short time here, I want to go back to a part. This is a short, very short first part, if I can get to this here. It's going to be called Nominations. That's a very small chapter. It's concerning about the drones of the nomination. Yeah, but I don't have time to read all of this here because my time is limited, but I'm going to try something. Let's talk about what hadn't happened to this World War III. This is an nomination. But what hadn't happened was they were watching God's peoples through cameras and through the military drones. This is what the nomination is about. He tells them to don't go out into the street because they would isolate these people. They wouldn't let them by and say, all who didn't take on the law of democracy, they're isolating them people. We don't know the human violation, human rights violation go on there because we don't consider these things. And all of these human rights violations going on over there, we don't care anything about those people because as long as it's not us. But at the same time, the book is open and we are being judged as God used this as a judgment against us. He's not going to come there and tell us what you did to your mother or father yesterday or your sister or your brother yesterday. The judgment is the way we perceive him and his kingdom and his glory. He turned these peoples over to the violation, but he did so not only to try them and to judge them, to bring judgment up on them, but judge their adversaries. Because it was part here in the Bible scriptures, he said, you should have had, even though I turned my peoples over to you, you should have had mercy on them. Through this part, where the nations have relied on Mr. Babylon, who is the CIA, the Central Intelligence, which is the Chinese. They came up with all of these military weapons, and they became filthy rich. And I will explain this when I get to the other part. But they came rich. I don't know what people might get up in it when you say filthy rich. I don't know. I got that from the vocabulary of my mother, you know. And it's just hard to shake something you carry from your childhood. Well, through the luxury, they live by creating weapons, testing weapons that kill. That's all they live for. So there was no godliness in these organizations. And when you look and see, they came and created forces in here who have sinister ideas and sinister meaning, then once you get these people in there who have sinister ideas and sinister meaning, there's no way to say a vile person will not turn on the values of the peoples in his own land. What does it say? God said this person is sacred to you, and if you used him to conduct vile marriages, sooner or later evil cannot be perfected. Sooner or later evil will take and turn up on itself. So there's no sacred ground saying you can have a sacred oath or sacred covenant with something to delight in destroying. It doesn't matter how you twist and say, well, it's going to be sacred to me. A snake is a snake. A viper is a viper. You cannot sit and say he's going to treat me different than the other people that he had slain before, and say, I'm going to take him and I'm going to treat him very special. It doesn't matter if you treat him very special. And the viper, you get too close to him, he's going to pain you. This is what I can't understand about the men of this nation who proclaim themselves to be intelligent peoples of this. They hold them out. They hold their peace. And when they see these things acting out on some other peoples in some other nation, we don't consider that same evil bowl, if we let this thing to grow, it'll grow and become a fungus, and from a fungus it can become a plague, and it will plague and destroy the integrity of the entire earth. We don't consider these things, but we walk around here, black peoples and white peoples alike, green and yellow people, we have all the time to hate each other and find fault in each other, but we don't consider what's right and what's wrong. We don't consider what's good for the land and what's bad for the land. We don't consider the same thing we enjoy, somebody else enjoy the same thing. But how is it? One man, he take away the freedom of another man without a cause, just to exalt himself. What kind of man would take and he drink all he can from the well, and there's others sitting around thirsty, and he got the last drink, and once he get filled with his drink and his thirst is quit, he taking total rest out up on the earth. What kind of man do these things? This is what I see. I looked at all of these things unfolding themselves in the earth, and we have a God, and God is a perfect ingredient for all mankind. He's a perfect ingredient for the beasts of the wild, the fowls of the air, the fishes of the sea. God is a perfect ingredient for everything. What will we be? Where would we be without a God? Where would judgment come from? Who would be there to hear our cry? Who would be there to give us mercy and answer us in judgment and judge each of us according to our deeds and according to our work? Where would we be today if there was no God? As I say, sometimes we don't consider him how valuable God really is. He's a God is worthy to be served. He's a God worthy to be praised. He's holy and he's righteous. He's a God who is worthy to be uplifted. He shouldn't have to go take these measures against us before we bow down and give him honor and we give him praise. This is something that we should do automatically. Even if we spend one day in the sun and the rest of the days have been agony all our life, there's some blessings in that part because we ourselves could have been the vile person. As I've traveled this journey, seen the worst side of life, the dark side of life, I wouldn't trade the status of my life for the life of the rich man. If richness would cause you to just exploit another man. I don't never want to be rich. Thank you.